It's the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, brought to you by Bet Rivers. And remember, for all of your wagering needs, as you go through this stretch run in baseball and get ready for the upcoming football season and everything that will follow that, the Bet Rivers app has everything you need. It's new, it's improved, it continues to get better all the time. So go to the Bet Rivers app, and that'll get you everything you need. And remember, for all of your wagering needs, it's Bet Rivers in New York and New Jersey, Play Sugar House in Connecticut. As we head towards the All-Star break, we talked about the Mets trying to finish strong here, and they have done that as they get ready to go to San Diego for 3 games. San Diego has shown some life of late. They've won 3 games in a row themselves. They find themselves at 41-46. The Mets this morning find themselves with the same exact record, and these are 2 teams that everybody in the National League will have their eye on in the second half because of the talent on both teams and the expectations for both teams. They're both in the same mix right now, okay? They are in the same exact mix except for one distinction, and that is San Diego is a lot closer to first place than the Mets are. San Diego is 8 games back. The Mets, because of Atlanta's incredible season, and Atlanta is already 30 games over 500 and the best team in baseball. The Mets are 18 back in the loss column. Now, when you look to the wild card, and that's where San Diego and the Mets will be competing, they're both 6.5 games back. They, right now, would only have to jump 3 teams to get into the wild card. If the wild card was today, you would have Miami, the Dodgers, and Philly as the wild cards. The Giants, Milwaukee, have records over 500. And then come the Mets, who have won 5 straight games, which is the longest streak in the majors right now, tying Cincinnati. And the Padres, and the Mets and the Padres will meet for 3 games. And if the Mets can win this series, if they can get 2 out of 3 in San Diego and go into the break and get ready for a homestand that will start with the Dodgers on Friday, they would have a lot of momentum. They will have done 7 out of 8. They've won 5 straight now. If they can get 2 out of 3 here and not lose this series, not have to sweep it, that would be wonderful if they did and go into the break with an 8-game winning streak. But right now, this 5-game streak has given them a little life. And I'll tell you, Alvarez has made a big difference. And I really believe that he has been infectious to this team and really started to change a little bit of the culture of this team. I think he has become a very, very big part of this team in every way, with his enthusiasm. And I understand it's a little over the top sometimes, as it was on that homer, but the bottom line is he's a young guy who loves playing, who has boundless energy and a lot of confidence and a tremendous amount of power. And go back to that home run, which was the biggest single win the Mets have had this year. 2 outs, 2 strikes, 9th inning, 1-0 down. That home run was vintage Piazza. Right field, big-time power, fouled off good pitches, went up there looking to hit it out, and hit it out. And how many times did we see Mike do the same exact thing and hit that big, big, big game-tying, game-winning home run for the Mets? I mean, nobody hit more big, clutch home runs than Piazza. And this kid has that kind of power. I'm not telling you that he's Mike Piazza. I'm not telling you that he's a Hall of Famer or that he is going to be the offensive player that Mike Piazza was. Mike Piazza was a great offensive player. He was in his prime, he was a legitimate 300 hitter. And he had great power. And he also had immense power to the opposite field, which this kid has too. Mike Piazza, I believe, is the only player that they have on record who has hit 400 home runs and hit more than 200 of them to the opposite field. He loved to hit him to right field. and not cheap right field like a Yankee Stadium home, a big-time right field. And this kid has given this team a big, big lift. And the 5 games in a row, and then Carrasco last night in a laugher comes up with a gem. They really cooled off Arizona, and now 3 big games with San Diego to finish up the first half. And the talk of the Mets being dead, the talk of Buck having to leave town, which you heard everywhere, which was such ridiculous nonsense. Now, if they finish this strong into the break, you know what? They have life in the second half. They do. I'm not telling you they're automatically going to get there, but I'll tell you something. They're not dead in the least, and they could do it. Now, I would look to add another starting pitcher. I think they need one. I would go out and see what I have to give up to get a guy. Like a Sears with Oakland. Somebody like that. You can give the A's maybe some real low minor league prospects. I mean, the Mets don't have a lot of pitching prospects. We know that. But they're looking long-term now. They are really bad. They're going to have to go through some real pain, but it does pay off. Look now at 2 teams who today are both in the playoffs, who have gone through pain. The Orioles have gone through a lot of lean years. It's a very proud franchise that has gone through a lot of lean years, but now they are bringing up good kid after good kid, prospect after prospect. And you know what? As you watch them bury the Yankees last night and win the back 2 games of that series, Yankees won the first 2 games of the series, and the Orioles turned around and won the last 2 games. And with Tampa sliding right now, Orioles are only 4 games out of first place, and they're 16 games over 500. And you know what? If you take out the big-time pitcher like Cole, who you pay a lot of money for, or Rodon, who you pay a lot of money for, the Orioles, if you look at their lineup, other than Judge, just buries the Yankee lineup. They have a much more talented lineup than the Yankees do. Top to bottom. They got hitters top to bottom. They have players top to bottom, and they're bringing them up every day. So Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's won 5 games in a row and moved 10 games over 500. Now, I understand everyone's waiting for them to collapse, waiting for them to fall apart in that division. They still have a 2-game lead. The bottom line is they have talent, young talent that they're bringing up day by day. And you see that with Baltimore. You see that with Cincinnati right now. As they are, and you see it with Arizona too, to an extent. They have some good young players, and they're trying to hold off the Dodgers. They won't hold the Dodgers off, but the bottom line is they could still make the playoffs, and they still are 18 games over 500. So they're going to be very solidly in a wild card position unless they collapse. But those 2 young teams are very, very emblematic of what's going on. Everybody wants to hit that button. The problem is these teams pay a lot of years at the bottom and keep drafting high and load up talent and then turn it around. That's how Houston built this run. And Baltimore is going to go on a run now. There's no question. They're going to be good for years to come. Cincinnati, if they do things smartly and spend a little money, I know Baltimore will. If Cincinnati will, and I know they are sometimes very lax to do that. If they do, they could be good for years to come also. The Mets have to go out, add another pitcher to that bullpen, add another starting pitcher, and hope that the guys in the second half show life like they've shown the last couple of days, like Marte. Get McNeil hitting. You've got Nimmo. You got Lindor had a huge night last night. You have Alonso, who's going to have a good second half. You've gotten a lot out of Pham, who's hit very, very well. And now you have Alvarez, who is pounding the baseball and putting up big numbers. Really doing a heck of a job. The bottom line is it's going to be very interesting. The Yankees, who have depth in their pen, I tell you all along, though, everyone talks about the Yankees having the best pen in baseball, and I understand their numbers are very good. But I continue to caution you about this. I don't trust this bullpen in a big spot. Not a classic bullpen because it doesn't have a classic closer. It's a deep bullpen. It doesn't give up a lot of home runs. It throws a lot of ground balls. It's got a very good ERA. I don't knock any of that. But I don't trust any of them in a big spot. Now we'll see how big a lift Rodon gives us. And if he solidifies that number 2 spot in the rotation, and they get Tortes back, they have a chance to really have a pretty good second half, even if Judge is going to be out a long time. And you've heard reports about this, that the only thing that will help, that surgery will not help. There's no quick fix for Judge, and that if he pushes it, he could be in a very bad way and wind up with a very chronic injury. If he rests it right and does it properly, it will not bother him in the future. But it's a one-time injury that needs time to heal. Big toe is a very complicated area in the body, with bones and ligaments and everything else, and we're seeing that. And this is a freakish injury, yes, but one that could cost him most of this year. And that means, you know what? Let's be honest. What it means is guys like Rizzo, who has just stopped, I don't care if he's slapping a couple of base hits, has just stopped driving the baseball. You can see it. He doesn't attack the baseball. He doesn't get the weight shift you need to really hit the ball with power. Flipping his bat at the ball. Now, that would make me think there's an injury there that we don't know about, that he's trying to hide, because he is on an insane, and if you've watched him play, he consistently hits the kind of fly balls that go out of Yankee Stadium. He hasn't hit any of them in like 150 at-bats. He would fall into 3 or 4 homers. And Stanton has got to get up and carry this team like he gets paid to do. And that means put the team on his back. Is he capable of that? Yes, it has to happen. If they try to rely on a bunch of lousy left fielders, and let's be fair, but let's be honest, lousy left fielders, and a bunch of guys who I have told you since April have no right being in the corner outfield spots at Yankee Stadium. And guys like Donaldson, who occasionally are going to knock a bad pitch out of the ballpark, but can't hit in the least. I mean, you can't justify carrying guys like this. You can't justify carrying guys like Cabrera and Donaldson. I mean, the catchers hit enough with their play. It's okay. I have no problems with the catchers. And Volpe, let's be honest, he's done a very good job. He really has, because he withstood an awful, awful stretch where he was an automatic out, was not getting on base in the least. And as a rookie to go through that, as a Yankee rookie who's highly touted, that's hard. And he didn't blink. And now all of a sudden he's putting the bat on the ball. He's hitting line drives. He's hitting the ball with power. He's doing a very good job. So I have no problem with him. LeMahieu is a complete mystery. He has lost it so completely offensively. And now Rizzo's lost it the same way. I mean, they have got to get power numbers out of Rizzo and Stanton. It's just the way it has to be. Their pitching and the fact that they're the Yankees is going to carry them to the postseason. But let's be honest. They're not going anywhere in the postseason the way they're built. Because they just are a bad offensive team now. And you got to have some offense. You might get a well-pitched game, but you can still lose 2-1 and 3-2. And right now, they can do that a lot. There are a lot of nights where the Yankees just don't hit the ball. And let's be honest, left field has become a joke with the Yankees. It's become an absolute farce. You got to put somebody out there who can catch the baseball. I mean, that's elementary. These are the Yankees. You cannot send guys out there who can't catch fly balls. And let's be honest, while their hearts are in the right place, some of the plays we've seen in left field, and let's be honest, hey, Hicks was bad when he was there. He had lost it that much. But some of the people the Yankees have put in left field of late, I mean, it's gotten comical. It really has. And it's hard to watch. I mean, IKF plays okay in center. He is a butcher in left field. I mean, he's had at least 3 balls this week, maybe 4, that he should have absolutely caught, and a couple of them are just comical. You can't have fly balls that land on the track out there that guys take a stab at and miss. I mean, if you're carrying Greg Luzinski's bat out there, you're going to take your chances with the defense. If you're carrying Dave Kingman's bat out there, you might take the chance with the defense. Not when you're carrying a guy who doesn't hit or hits, intermittently, and then carry a defense like that. And I know people have rooted for Cabrera, but I'm sorry. I've seen enough of Cabrera. Hey, I'm inclined to give Florial a chance. He's had a big year. I know he's never hit here. But sometimes the light goes on, and he's hitting now. We know he can do the job. We know he can hit, he can field, and he can run. It's not a bad idea to give him a chance and see. Who knows? Maybe he's turned the corner as a hitter. But you've seen enough of these, help-wanted outfielders for the Yankees who have just embarrassed themselves. Your emails when we return.
Want to email the Mike Francesa podcast? Drop Mike a note at mikefrancesapodcast@gmail.com.
All right, time for some emails. Remember to send your emails to mikefrancesapodcast@gmail.com. Send your emails along. We'll get to as many as we can. I've had a couple of requests to go over some movies and some series to watch and some book stuff and stuff like that. I will dedicate one show to that stuff. I'm waiting to see Oppenheimer. I know it's 3 hours long, but it should be interesting. I don't care about blowing up everything. I mean, I'm not into the pyrotechnic aspect of the movie, but the history of the movie, the treatment of the movie, will be very interesting to me. that Oppenheimer incurred the wrath of Truman when he made statements about having blood on his hands and everything else. And, you know, some of the remorse that he had about certain things. I'm interested in this. The movie obviously has been, you know, very ballyhooed. It's got a lot of attention. It opens everywhere on July 20th. The only thing about it is I don't understand why anybody thinks that they can't tell a story in 2 hours or 2 hours and 10 minutes. Why they need 3 hours to tell a story. That's a long time for people to sit there. It really is. And if it's a 3-hour movie, for it not to make you look at your watch, it better be good. Because 3 hours is a long movie. And the 3-hour running time for this movie is a lot. That is a long movie. 2 hours is a good movie. 3 hours is a long movie. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. And, you know, there's not many times you have to go to the theater. This time you're going to have to go to the theater. I don't think they're going to allow you to get this movie for a while on even Netflix or, you know, Prime or anything else. You will get it there for $19.95 within a certain amount of time, but I think they're going to wait a little while. I think they really want this movie to go to the movies like they did with the Cruise movie. You know, they made you go to the movies to watch it if you wanted to see it right away. Sounds like they're going to do the same thing with Oppenheimer. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to it. Somebody sent me a thing to check out The Bear, the series The Bear. I watched a couple episodes. I'm not ready to declare what it is or what I think of it. I want to give it more time because I have very mixed emotions about it so far. But I did watch a couple episodes. All right, here we go. Let's get some emails in. And remember, Mike Francesa Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. Doug starts us off. NFL coaches come and go. That's true. They come and go quickly. That's also true. It's happened with the Giants. Yes, it has. What makes Dable different? He's good. It's as simple as that. Some guys are head coaches. Some guys, even when they wait a long time, they don't get that break at 35 or 33. They have to wait for that break. They have to make a lot of journeys and a lot of stops before they get that break. He is a very, very talented coach. He does the things that you have to do. You have to connect with your players. You have to be able to lead them. You have to be able to motivate them. And in this day and age, you have to be able to understand them. And the word I would use is connect. He does that. Plus, he does the other things. He came here and he put together a good staff. He built a relationship that was very important. Strong side opposite is very important, which means if you're a very one-way coach, there are guys who have their hand in everything. Tom Landry was that way. Bill Belichick is that way. Bill Parcells was that way. They're going to coach every part of the team. That's just the way they are. It's just how dominant their personalities are. It's just how varied their talents are. Parcells was a defensive coach who called offensive plays, who also was very involved in special teams. Belichick loves special teams. He loves to devise defensive coverages. He's not as versed in offense, but he'll still get involved in offense. Landry was a defensive coordinator for the Giants. He was a defensive player, defensive coordinator, but he also invented things offensively. So there are guys like that. But I see the model that the Giants, through Dable, used to build this coaching staff. And he went out and he got a strong-willed, very strong defensive coach to bring into this team. And that was one of the best things he did, because that coach's presence, his abilities, his aggressiveness, his very, very pronounced and interesting blitz designs that he utilizes and is never afraid to utilize are very impressive and won games. But Dable's an offensive coach who said, you know what? Mike Holmgren had Fritz Shermer. Andy Reid had very strong defensive guys. First, Jimmy Johnson. Not that Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson who was his defensive coordinator. The bottom line is, if you are a confident enough individual, and I think it was the right time for Dable in that he had been around the block enough, and he was comfortable enough in his own skin that he wasn't worried about bringing a very prominent defensive guy in and giving him the right to run his defense. He wanted that. He wanted that partnership. And it has worked really well. The Giants last year stole games with their coaching. Literally stole games with their coaching, with their game plans, with having the team ready, and with their very aggressive defenses at very critical times. This guy, it's an absolute crapshoot. I've said this many times, and you can bring in the most accomplished coordinator. He could have rings on every finger. He can have a reputation second to none, and he could stink as a head coach. Bill Arnsparger came to the Giants with about as much pedigree as you could possibly have as an assistant coach, as a coordinator, to become a head coach. He was awful. They were 7-24 under Arnsparger. You can go down the line. North Turner, as an offensive coordinator, is as decorated as you could possibly be, but he's a terrible head coach. You move that step over. Or as, in basketball, Rick Majerus used to say, slide down the bench 18 inches and and your whole world changes. Same thing. You go from being a coordinator and then a head coach, and all of a sudden you have now not a few problems, you have everything to deal with. And some people just can't do it. A lot of them can't do it. But the ones who can slide in there very gracefully, and they feel like they've been coaching forever. That's what the Giants have right now. They have a guy who no one even thinks about anymore and is established already. And if you were going to ask people to start naming good coaches in the NFL, he will be named a lot, and he's only been there a year. Because he has moved into the job seamlessly. The job was one that he was perfect for. And his skill sets match up. You don't know if they will or they won't. Buffalo missed them last year a lot. And the Giants, because of what they had in their coaching staff, stole games last year. The question is, can they steal games this year against a tougher schedule? I mean, they won, let's be honest. How many times were they down big at half and come back and win the game? I mean, they literally stole games from good teams last year. It was very impressive. Phil, a lot of people, myself included, never liked Nimmo overall as a player, but I guess he's an everyday player. Do you like him? I was wrong about him. I thought he was a fourth outfielder. I did not think he'd be this good. He's gotten better and better and better. Now he's added power to his repertoire. He's been their best player this year. He fields his position very well, has the once in a while erratic play, but fields his position very well. He gets on base. He hustles like crazy, and now he's added power to his repertoire. He is a very solid player, a borderline all-star player, and a far better regular than I ever thought he would be. So I was dead wrong about him. John, a lot of people compare Trout to some of the all-time greats, and he clearly is that, but he has missed a ton of time. Now he's out again. I wonder if 500 home runs is even in the realm of possibility. Well, 500 home runs is based on a couple of things, obviously. First of all, it's based on ability. You have to be a great talent, but you also have to be able to stand the test of time and hang around a long time. I mean, Mickey Mantle was hurt a lot. He's still at 500 home runs. If Mantle's career had ended when it should have, which was 64, he wouldn't have hit 500 home runs. He would have batted over 300, and he would have had a classic offensive career because his last 4 years really dragged down his overall numbers. But it allowed him to add a couple of, meaningful things like 500 homers. Not that he needed it to be great, but when you look at someone like him from 51 to 62, you take him from 51 to 62, and you will be hard pressed to find many players ever who are better than he was offensively. Not even, very few players. You can use Ted Williams. There's one, but there's very few players that match up offensively to what he accomplished in those years. When the idea of the game is to get on base and score runs, and then you throw in prodigious power, you look at his numbers, they are absolutely scary in those years. His last good year was 64 when he went 35, 111, 303. That was it. His last couple of years were just to hang around and cash a check and, hit the occasional home run, which he could still do, but he hit 236s last year. Getting back to Trout, yes, he gets hurt a lot, some of them freakishly. Okay? That is true. He has had 13 years. Now, when you look at it, in 2011, he played 40 games. In 2020, he played 53. In 2021, he played 36. In 2022, he played 119. So he hasn't had a lot in a long time. But when you look, 139, 157, 157, 159, 159, that was a good stretch. 140, 134, 114, pretty good stretch. He did have some longevity there where he got a lot of at-bats in all those years. He has not gotten a lot of at-bats in recent years. Really, since 2017, he has really had a hard time. Now, he's had 13 years. He's got 368 homers. When he plays a full season, he hits a lot of home runs. He just does. His numbers are good. That they're as you would expect them to be. They're classic numbers. So the bottom line is he's going to come close. If he can somehow stay away from any more serious injuries, he's going to come close. He's a legitimate power hitter. He's a wonderful player. He's a wonderful talent. He's a 300 hitter. He's a 994 guy. When you're a 994 guy, that's if your OPS is around high nines to 1,000 for your career, you're a special player. when he has full seasons, he has a 1 OPS. I mean, that's special. Right now, there's 2 players this year who have one. That's it. And Olson's close. You know, before the season started, I picked the Braves over the Astros, and I picked Olson to win the MVP, and I picked Alvarez to win the MVP for the Astros. He got hurt. But when you look at it, the Braves have had an incredible season. Olson has had a really good year. I mean, he's had a year that a lot of years would be an MVP season. He's got 29 homers and 70 RBIs already. He's going to take 30 homers and 70-something RBIs into the All-Star break. So he's on a pace to have 45, 140, 130. But the year Acuna is having is just insane. I mean, there's no other word for it. I mean, the guy has 80 runs scored. He's got 24 doubles, 21 homers, 54 RBIs. He's got a 337 batting average. He's got a 414 on-base percentage. His OPS is over 1, and he has stolen 41 bases already. So he's got 20 homers, and he's got 40 steals already, and 80 runs scored. Batting 337. That's a sick year. An absolutely sick year. So, I mean, Olson still has a chance, but I mean, Acuna would have to cool off. But does he have a chance? So does Trout have a chance? Yes. Is it, automatic? It really, you need a crystal ball because it's all based on whether or not he's going to stay healthy. I mean, it's not any more complicated than that. The guy is, he's 31 years old. He's beat up a lot, and he misses a lot of games. And he's already played 13 years, although not all full years, But when you have these, he fouled off a pitch and broke a bone, in his left hand. The hamate bone. I mean, these are freakish injuries, but, what are you going to do? But he has a chance. Who could you compare Alvarez to? Alvarez, to me, is the closest thing I have seen to Willie McCovey. If you are old enough or you know the name, they called him Stretch. He was just an amazing, big, long, left-handed hitter, sweeping swing, incredible power, really an amazingly gifted hitter. Really immense power. And, without question, Hall of Fame player. Alvarez, who is still a baby, he's 26 years old, reminds me very much of McCovey. He's got the same size. He's 6'5", he's 230. He's got that same build, and let's be honest, he has insane power. I mean, there's nothing else you can say. He can be a very, very special player. And, this year, obviously, he was off to a good start. We were expecting good things, and he got hurt. So, what can you do? But there's nobody else in baseball right now that I would really compare him to, but he very much reminds me of Willie McCovey. If you go back and look at the old Giants stuff and look at McCovey, and McCovey had a great career, really did. Was overshadowed by Willie Mays for a long time. Giants produced an incredible amount of position players in those days and great talent. They had all the Alou brothers in the outfield. They had, obviously Willie Mays and Bobby Bonds. They had McCovey. They had Jim Ray Hart. They had so many guys they did a great job with. And Willie McCovey was one of the all-time best. I mean, he was just a very special player. If you haven't really heard the name or you haven't really seen the player at all, go back and take a look. And he was a very special player. He really was. Chris asked, the Judge injury is alarming. Does his contract already seem like a mistake? As you remember how injury-prone he is. Listen, when you have a player of that magnitude who has proven himself to be that kind of player, and Judge's abilities are all around. There's nothing he can't do. He can run. He fields his position superbly. He is a wonderful offensive player. Last year was an amazing season. He has gone to another level as a player. I think you've seen that. You see how much he means to the team. I mean, he means a great deal to this team. The Yankees, you might have to go back to Mantle to find a time when the Yankees were so centered around a player as much as they're centered around Judge. The Yankees have too much centered around Judge right now. They rely too heavily on him because look at how bad their offense has been since he's gone out. Now, he's not responsible for Rizzo and Stanton going into these enormous funks. That's just happened. But, hey, you hope to keep the guy healthy. This was an injury that came from a play. I mean, he made a great play on the ball and suffered a freakish injury. That's nobody's knock. Yes, he does sit out sometimes with some minor ills that seem to linger. I think that's part of being his size, of being 6'8" and 270 pounds or whatever the heck he is. The bottom line is it takes harder to heal when you're a big man. And he is as big a man as we've seen in baseball. And he is obviously a prodigious talent. So you live with the good, you live with the bad, and you hope to get him on the field. Just like the Angels have had to live with Trout this way. And, you go into this All-Star game, no Judge, no Trout. It takes a lot out of this All-Star game. I mean, they're two of the featured guys that people want to see, and they're not there. And Alvarez, another one. So, you take a lot of these guys out of these games. It hurts the game. And then you're going to have a couple other guys sit out. I don't know if Ohtani's going to play. He might just pitch. He might not hit. So I gather he's going to pitch an inning. So, hey, you live with what you live with. Send your emails to MikeFrancesapodcast@gmail.com. We will start in the weeks ahead to start to integrate football in a little. We're still a couple of weeks away. We've just hit the All-Star break in baseball. The two teams are going to give us something to talk about down the stretch here this year. I don't think there's any question about that. They're vulnerable, but they're both going to be. And it looks like the Mets have a chance if they can just keep heading in the right direction here to get back into the mix. They have ground to make up. There's no question. They can't afford a slide. But 5 wins in a row is a step in the right direction. And it's got even the most negative Met fan at least interested in the week of what's going on and want to see what happens in San Diego this weekend. Will be fun to watch. See you down the line.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.